Hi, this is Robert Hancock with Zinier. I want to thank you all for joining us for our webinar. Hello, Zinier. Goodbye, field service frustrations in telco. Just to cover a few housekeeping issues, we are recording our event today, and we'll have that recording link available to you if you'd like it. Feel free to respond to your reminder email. Also, we are going to have a short Q&A session at the end of our event. If you have any questions, you can type those into the webinar dialog box, and we'll get to as many of those questions as we can at the end. So I want to introduce myself again. My name is Robert Hancock. I'm the VP of Sales here at Zinier, and I'll be going through a brief presentation on the topic at hand here to talk about some of the frustrations of field service and telco. At the end of that, we're going to have Francisco do a brief demo on our solution so you can understand how we've helped other people to solve it. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So we're going to go over a few issues here. We're going to talk about the telco market in general, some of the challenges that other folks in the market and perhaps you are suffering in delivery demands. We're going to talk about the current state of technologies in the marketplace, a little bit about what the new world order is and how technology is helping to enable that, a brief conversation about who Zinier is, and then a brief demo of our technology solution. So why don't we open and get started with the topic today. So as many of you know, there's a rise in demand for field service as related to telco. That rise in demand is coming from a lot of different sources. Network costs are expected to double as the operators seek to meet the demands of things like fiber to home and 5G and other related technology needs in the marketplace. The growth in the fiber to home market keeps exploding. As of 2020, more than 54 million homes have subscribed to fiber to the home. Based on what I see in my own neighborhood where they're running fiber just today, we can see that that demand is going to be increasing, and the pressure is going to be on vendors and technology providers and telco providers to really keep up with that demand and deliver top level service as they're responding to it. There's also going to be, obviously, with a lot of federally funded programs and other government agencies, there's over $11 billion in a rural digital opportunity fund, over and above all the other initiatives that are ongoing. The rural broadband market is ripe for investment as people are responding to COVID with work from home. It creates an increased demand on your own home internet and a demand to receive really high-speed internet and high-speed everything when it comes to technology. So I'm sure as I'm speaking to people in the marketplace here that you are sensitive to these topics and understand that this rise in demand is creating a lot of pressure on service organizations to really respond effectively. So let's talk about some of those challenges in delivery demands. The first of those is an increased demand for Uberized service. I want to give you a little story about my own experience that speaks to that a bit. In my previous home, we actually had a typical telco provider in our home, and we were pretty happy with the service, but fiber came into our neighborhood, and I decided I really liked the idea of having an increased speed. And so we made a change. Our fiber experience was quite delightful. I signed up. During that same sign-up process, I was able to choose a delivery window and a date and a time that met my needs. One of the great things that happened there was it wasn't a 4-hour window. It was actually a 1-hour window they allowed me to choose. And they told me they would communicate with me efficiently and effectively throughout the delivery process. The morning of that day came, they text messaged me and said, hey, our technologist is going to be arriving at your home at 11 a.m. At about 10:25, I got a text message saying he was on his way. And then right at 11 o'clock, he showed up. He was able to complete the work, get me set up and tested, and do that all within an hour. Now, when I moved to my new home, that fiber provider was not available to me. So I chose the old provider that I'd had. They gave me a 4-hour window. They didn't advise me ahead of time when they were going to arrive. And then they actually arrived late and they didn't finish. They had to come back a second day and actually complete the service. And I went through a similar challenge where I had to set aside a 4-hour time window to meet them here. The reality is I have now switched to another provider, and there's a lot of things that went into that decision, but one of the main things was that I couldn't receive that Uberized service from some of those other vendors. We're also seeing a lot of pressure from multiple different business lines and work types. We have organizations that are allowing their employees to work from home, as a part of that demand, you have to have internet that's going to work all the time and is going to be able to support video like our video is supporting now. And so you're seeing a lot of different business type needs are being driven into the home. You're also seeing pressures for people that are using Citrix and other applications to be able to tap into these virtual services remotely. So these are creating a lot of demand in the telco space. We also see a lot of increased demands for more information coming from the field. In addition to that Uberization of where am I and when am I going to arrive, we need to capture a lot of information. In the case of that fiber provider, they had to capture pictures, they had to capture a lot of serial numbers, et cetera, for the equipment being used, and they actually captured my signature as a part of the work. So again, that's creating demands on the service providers to provide that information. And then you have to have knowledge of existing infrastructure. In the case of the fiber provider, they needed to know exactly where they could hook in my home to the lines. They needed to know all the points in the neighborhood where the installation was completed. And that information needs to be available to the technicians on the fly as they're seeking to do the work to make sure it's done efficiently and effectively. Now, let's talk about the existing solutions in the marketplace. And I've shown you a chart here that mirrors the Magic Quadrant for field service as it was delivered by Gartner. And there's been a lot of change in that market. So as you're seeking to enhance your services and to be better at delivering field service in the marketplace, what are the vendors in that marketplace doing to help support that? We can see that this distribution of vendors has really gotten to be just leaders and niche players. There's been a lot of acquisitions. That upper right-hand quadrant, all of these, with the exception of one of them, have grown into that spot, not necessarily by advancing their technology footprint, but by acquiring other vendors. Because we used to see a lot of people in this challenger area, some in this vision area, those were all acquired. Now, what you see in that market is, yes, technologies that have a very wide set of capabilities. They can do almost anything you want them to do. The challenge is underlying those leader vendors are in some cases, 6 different technologies that have been blended together to provide that complete solution. Now, what we see if we read through Gartner's reports on these vendors is a lot of challenges around implementation timelines, around flexibility in the technology to respond to these new needs. A use case in point that I can speak to, I worked for one of these vendors in the past. And we had a customer come to us at the very beginning of COVID, and they actually asked us, hey, we want to change our user interface for our mobility solution so that when the technicians begin their day, they snap a picture of themselves wearing their safety mask. They fill out some information around their COVID exposure. Have they received a test? Have they been vaccinated? Do they have any fears that they might expose the customer? And then that goes as a PDF to the customer so that the customer can be assured they're safe for that visit. That mobile development, because of these issues, these multiple underlying technologies that are fairly poorly integrated, that took over 2 months to deliver that solution to the customer and over $25,000 in custom development fees. So those are some of the challenges that we are hearing from the marketplace, and certainly Gartner has heard from the marketplace with regard to these technologies. They're older technologies. Again, they're not necessarily native cloud, and they're combining multiple different solutions for a single product. But again, these are actually multiple different platforms that are having to work together. So it can create barriers to your ability to kind of pursue these new business opportunities and to manage the expectations of customers, and certainly to do those things on demand. So these are some of the challenges that you may be experiencing with your current solution, or as you look at solutions in the marketplace. Can these solutions move in a dynamic fashion to support you and these changes in initiatives that you might have ongoing? So one of the ways that we see that solutions can help in this space is to enable self-ownership of your field service environment. What I mean by self-ownership is that when you have a need, when a business analyst comes to you and say, hey, we have a new business process that we want to implement with your field service techs. An example of those might be that you have to capture certain evidence when you're on site and capture signatures to help you close the order to cash process. If you're relying on your vendor, again, in this disparate system of technologies that are being used, you may find yourself having to ask questions like, when are you going to release this technology to me or release this new capability? Or how much is it going to cost for me to change my mobile experience or my back-end workflow to support this new business need? It brings about the concept of low code development. The rise in low and no code solution is enabling organizations in the telco space to respond more efficiently and more effectively to the changes in the market dynamics. And that is when you have an idea that a business analyst can come to an application like you've seen here, create a new page, drag and drop that new page in, adjust the workflow by drawing arrows, et cetera, and then deliver that solution to the marketplace. That example that I mentioned before of that COVID checklist, again, taking that 2-month time frame to deliver it in the other technology, in our solution at Zinier, we were able to do that in just under an hour. And so you really should be thinking about how is your technology going to enable you to expand your revenue base, to be efficient and effective with your customers. One of the ways can be to take self-ownership of your application management by using low and no code solutions. So let's move forward now and talk about how that might look from a personal perspective. So in your solution, you might be thinking through, I need to really change the way I build out a work order because I need to change the service windows. I need to change the information that's required to deliver this solution in the marketplace. I need to change the instructions for my technician to understand how he can best deliver this. So you can actually go and collect feedback on this process by doing a demo, as you see here, on that work process with your technicians or with your back office personnel so that they can understand exactly what that workflow is going to look like. Once you've received that feedback, then you can actually go immediately and make changes to the system. The reason for this is that you really need to understand what's happening on a day-to-day basis in the field, and you need those changes to be reflected immediately in your application. So one of the key aspects of kind of maintaining self-ownership of your application is a constant feedback cycle with your back office personnel, with your technicians, et cetera, so that you can understand what those needs are and then go dynamically and change those in the field. We can see here that as a part of a typical application rollout, you might have a roadmap that helps you understand how am I going to deliver these capabilities. So as you're collecting feedback in this example, perhaps I'm collecting feedback in collaboration, service planning, and service execution, et cetera. It's very key that you build a roadmap of capabilities that you're going to be delivering to the field. Now, it may be possible that you might deliver all of these capabilities to the field all at once. But the reality is, because of training and hiring and those other areas, you might need to stage those things out and plan around them. So part of taking that self-ownership is to design a system of collecting that feedback that we discussed before, and then also creating a delivery calendar that your teams can be ready for, that they can be trained for in advance. In this case, in Q3, we might decide that we're going to roll out in-app messaging to build in parts recommendations and predictive maintenance. Again, these are things that you can forecast, that you can build training around and deliver to the market based on a constant feedback schedule that's coming from those resources in the field. So the other thing that you really need to do is take a look very specifically at your KPIs. Sometimes organizations find themselves operating in an old world order of KPIs. What is my number of jobs per day per technician? What's my first time fix rate? What is my drive time, et cetera? These can all be very important, but are not the end all be all to what you're seeing there. For example, perhaps your drive time is relatively high, but your customer satisfaction is really high. Do you want to change it? Do you want to try and tighten drive time, et cetera? But, maybe you do, but does that risk your customer satisfaction rate? What are you seeing in your growth rate? Are your technicians able to do more jobs in response to an increase in revenue, Or do I need to look at hiring new reps? What's my retention rate? All of these metrics can be an important factor in managing your field service environment and understanding how you're going to deliver that excellent and effective service in the marketplace. So again, as you're going through this process of taking ownership of your field service environment so that you can make sure it's responding to the needs of the market, you need to have a constant eye on how you are performing in all of these different areas, and then using that information to help you understand the places where you need to adjust quickly to the marketplace and its dynamics. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Zinier and how we respond to that. So we've talked about the increase in demand and the increase in expectations in the marketplace. We've talked about all of these different areas that are going to require you to be dynamic in your approach to field service. And we've discussed how you can take ownership of your field service environment by utilizing a field service solution that manages the application through low code and gives you the capability to take ownership of your own application health. And so we've done that with our Zinier platform. So it is the first of its kind low code platform that is purposely built for field service, meaning it does all of those key things: service contracts, optimized scheduling, routing and optimization, all of the key factors that are necessary in a field service platform, with the added advantage of giving you the ability of taking ownership of the application yourself over time and not being beholden to a release roadmap from the vendor or perhaps custom development. Some of the unique capabilities are also the ability to configure your own artificial intelligence to help you automate all of the business processes from the beginning of a service engagement all the way till the end, and also to embed in all the core systems that you need so that you have a single view of all the information connected from your accounting system through to your CRM, all the way through to your web portals where your customers can interact, self-serve themselves, etc. So I want to give you a bit of a use case here. One of our customers is called Manvia out of Europe, and they're a facility management solution. And I don't want to go through all of this, but I want to talk about some key factors that differentiate Zinier from the rest of the marketplace. Number one, the very biggest one, I think, is that 3 months to deployment. The average deployment for a field service solution can be 6, 9, even as much as 18 months. I just spoke to a company on Friday, that's actually been in process for 2 years with another field service vendor. One of the reasons why they've been in that process is every change they want to make, every time they want to be dynamic with their business process, it requires somebody to have to code or for the technology to be released in a new version so they can access that capability. Because of this low code capability and the drag and drop workflow and mobile design interface, Manvia was able to get their Zinier solution up in 3 months. They actually were able to increase through automation the amount of tasks the back office were able to do by 3 times and save over $4.5 million in operational costs. Another customer that you may be familiar with, Black & Veatch, which is an EPC firm, does a lot of work for telcos and may do some work for you. They actually were able to increase their tasks completed in the field by 2x and 3x the number of tasks completed in the back office, with an increase in 11% of profit margin. Again, this is by managing the process from end to end and doing so in a way that they can manage the application themselves to respond to those changing business needs and priorities. And then finally, another one of our telco customers, Telmex, is a tier 1 network operator, and they've automated their closeout packages using our solution. They've had 85% fewer repeat truck rolls, so that first-time fix rate has gone up significantly. And they've actually reduced the cost of revisits by over $3.6 million. So again, these are examples of solutions that can help you drive effective and efficient customer process. So Francisco, why don't you take over now and just briefly show our visitors here a little bit about the Zinier solution.
Thank you, Robert. Certainly. Let me start sharing my screen. Hold on a sec. Perfect. So in this demonstration, I'll walk you through how Zinier can impact your efficiency by driving field service automation across your field service value chain. So let's just start with the project management module. In the project management module, we actually allow all the project stakeholders to manage a collection of work orders, tasks, and everything to create a project plan for long cycle, large effort jobs, particularly for civil construction type of projects, or where an installation consists of many installation steps, for example. So let's get into the details and how we can actually allow managers to control from a budgetary standpoint all the elements that participate within the project, having visibility into all the tasks, resources, materials, all the consumables, all the different work orders, and it's a specific task with all the moving pieces right here, as you can see. So we have the forecast number of budget, the forecast number of hours, the parts, materials, services, and resources. After that, the optimization of the work orders and tasks is the backbone of a successful field service organization. So actually, with efficient scheduling in place, organizations can cut down on truck rolls, increase the first time fixed rates, as already mentioned, ensure the right resources and assign the right task, optimize the travel routes, and ultimately lead to a great customer experience. So as you can see right here, we can get into all the details about the capacity of my field force, the different tasks that I need to attend, the deadlines, the SLAs, the prioritization, and all the information that can come from an original system of source or any ticketing tool that we can enable thanks to the enterprise grade integration layer. So we can always have that capability. Another important thing is that by clicking on the auto schedule button, we can actually allow the scheduler with the, just consider different factors such as matching the skill level requirements to the right technicians, doing the correct prioritization of the tasks by the SLAs. And let me show you that. Like, we can always select a particular time frame, and of course select the different regions, the task types, and the task status required just to do the auto schedule piece. So once that we have that we've done the dispatch properly, you know, whenever it comes to visibility, we can always just keep track of where the technicians are located. So through the map view, as you can see right here, we can always have access to all the details in real-time location. And these locations are pinged from the technicians' mobile devices. So these same devices are the ones that are going to be used by the technicians in order to execute the proper job that was just assigned. So let me just show you how once that this has been assigned to a particular technician is being provided through the mobile application. Before that, let me just show you how we can actually do, for example, if we are working with a fiber deployment type of service and we are working with a network segment, our customer management model allows us to create different segments. And as you can see right here, we can have several points in that particular network segment and have different statuses like updating the existing network, or we have new elements to be deployed, or we identify already the different elements existing in the network designs. So we have that capability, as well as we are able to just pull all that data from the GIS system or any other system that has all these data points. So let me just jump directly into the jobs that we have on the field. So right here, we already assigned this particular fiber maintenance task type to a technician, so he can get access to all the details, as you can see right here. And we can get immediate visibility to all the details right here of all the existing network elements, as you can see right here. And we can just get into all the details that were just, of course, provided by a previous crew, or actually it could be by the actual technician running this particular job. So as you can see, we can get access to all the details right here with all the different services that were executed. And of course, with all the moving pieces in regards to the parts and materials that were installed with all the details. As well as we can always do the addition of new elements to be deployed. And of course, we can just get all the moving pieces, all the data collection with pictures, the moving parts, the materials, the services that we need to execute. Once that we execute the job, we can send all the information back to the coordinator, and they have the capability to just do the approval whenever it's pending to be reviewed. They can get access to all the details and all the moving pieces that were just recollected by the technician or the crew on the field. So as you can see right here, we have all the details of this particular job being executed. And then, of course, they can approve or reject the job in real time. So I'm just approving this for the sake of this demo. And finally, once that we approve this, we can get access to the closest task status and whenever we can create a closer package. So let me show you a closer package once that we are able to create it automatically with all the details. So as you can see right here, we have access to all the details that were recollected by that particular job. So we have access to all the pictures with all the parts, with all the moving pieces, and the timestamps and the geolocations in real time. So this is the capability that we have whenever we are just controlling the life cycle of a particular service request being asked and of course fulfilled. So finally, of course, all the approvers can then review the results in this type of closer packages and have the capability to integrate back to the billing and invoicing different modules or the ERP modules. Robert, back to you. This is basically the whole demo.
Yeah, thank you for that. So just to be clear, one of the values that we are able to deliver through the Zinier solution is, again, the ability to design all these pages in this low-code environment. We call it our Z Studio. And you can see here that if you're pretty good at PowerPoint, you can design these pages and these workflows to suit the needs of that new business line or that new capability that you need to deliver in the marketplace. So now we want to transition and answer any questions that you all might have. And so if you could type those into the Q&A dialog box that you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen, and we'll get to as many of those questions as possible. First question we have is, Robert, can you tell me what type of person would be necessary to manage this application? That's actually a good question. I think, you know, an IT person, somebody that might be used to doing design would probably be a good person, but we do have customers that use business analysts and we provide training for them to do all that. I myself can actually do a little bit of damage and I certainly am not a technologist. So it really just depends on that person's interest level and their area of expertise. But we do find that business analysts and or IT people really make good authors inside the Z Studio. Robert, you mentioned your mobile application can be designed. How does it work in offline scenarios when we don't have connection? That's actually a really good question. The solution itself is meant to work offline or online. And when you come back into connection, it'll automatically update that data so that you actually don't lose anything. We know that with some other solutions in the marketplace, they struggle with that on and offline capabilities. Let's see, a question here, Robert, what type of work is this typically used for? You mentioned long-term jobs. What about typical break fix? Actually, that's a good question. The solution itself is unique in its ability to support either or. And so we have customers that do long-term construction jobs. Black & Veatch, for example, is using us for a lot of their back office process that starts with, you know, inspections and quote creation and going out and getting the requisite government permissions to do construction, all the way out to dispatching field service technicians to do break fix work. So the solution itself can be used for any of those use cases. Well, I think we just about ran out of time today. I know we have several questions we didn't get to. I'll respond to those directly to each one of you. We want to thank you guys for taking time to join us today, and we hope you have a great rest of the day.